Good morning, everyone. Councilman Rasmussen here with my update from our town council meeting last night, Monday, October 17th. Sorry, I'm looking at the calendar. It's right behind the phone here. So start off with some updates, things that are going on in town. I've mentioned this before. If you don't already receive the town tidbits, which is the Thursday email, you can sign up for that on the website, and a lot of this stuff is there. But stuff to remember that's going on right now. So right now the town is doing our fall cleanup. That goes from the 10th through the 21st, not including the weekends. So if you have large items, things that don't normally fit into the garbage, as long as it's not hazardous materials, you can put that out on the curb. The town staff is driving around in our garbage truck picking up things. There are some limitations like tires and things like that, and hazardous materials. So if you have questions, you can reach out to the town, or you can go onto the town website, and there is some additional information there to make sure that you know exactly what you can put out. But if you've got some equipment or larger things or materials that you need to get rid of, this is a good way to get rid of it if you don't have the option of taking it up to the dump yourself. So that runs through the 21st, so that runs through Friday this week. Your time is short. Get your stuff out there as fast as possible. This week, so it's going on, started yesterday, today, tomorrow, and Thursday. We're doing hydrant flushing around town, so you might see town staff out opening up the hydrants, testing them to make sure that they're getting the flow that they need, cleaning them, making sure all the valves are working. That's what's going on. And we do have sometimes, depending on where it is and how the hydrants are flushed, some folks do note that there's a little discoloration to water. I haven't heard about it in a little while, but I know it's been a concern for folks in the past. So if you're seeing hydrant flushing on your street and you see a little bit of discoloration in water, that is a normal thing that happens after the hydrants have been flushed. It just moves around so much stuff that might be in the pipes. Again, mentioned this after the last meeting. So the official trick or treat for the town is October 31st. To me, I think this is funny because there was never any other time that you trick or treated except for on Halloween, and it was pretty much from dusk till whenever you were full of candy. But the town does establish this because we do get questions. In fact, we've gotten asked numerous times already what day the town is doing trick or treating. So it is October 31st, Halloween. We know that there are some events, some communities do like trunk or treats, or there might be other things that go on that weekend before, seeing as Halloween is on a Monday this year. But for the folks in town, the town-wide trick or treat, Halloween, 5 to 8 p.m. Hope to see you out there. So those are the major updates. Sorry, I forgot. So on Halloween, our police department is going to be doing the haunted police department. This is only on Halloween. It starts at like 6 o'clock. You can go. They're going to have, Chief James assured us last night, the best candy bars. So I'll be there. And but they've got the haunted police department going on, and that should be a lot of fun. So if you're in the area and you want to swing by and check it out, please do. And then the last big one is leaf collection. If you're downtown, I saw them driving around yesterday morning, vacuuming up leaves. We have the big vacuum truck. It will drive around and look for folks who have raked their leaves out to the street right up in front of them. You can just rake them straight out to the street. The vac truck will come along and get them. We do this through the end of the year, basically. We know not all the leaves fall at the same time. So you'll see the vac truck driving around town. If you have leaves and you need to get them up to the street, do so, and the vac truck will be around to collect them. So they don't drive everywhere every single day. It may take a couple of days for them to be around in each neighborhood, but they will be going around picking them up. So those are the major updates for things that were like little things that were shared. As far as council updates and things like that, one of the biggest ones is we have officially, and some folks may have seen this because a press release went out, the town has officially hired a new town manager. His name is Sheldon Hudson. He comes to us from Millsboro. Sheldon was the town manager down there. He's a Delaware native, downstate native, brings a lot of experience and understanding of what a town like ours looks like, sort of how we grow, and the machinations and workings of how things tend to flow in Delaware. So we're really excited. Sheldon will start on the 20th, so he starts Thursday this week. He attended our town council meeting last night. He's been meeting some of the staff and starting to understand a little bit more about what the job will entail. But you'll hopefully see him around. If you get a chance to, please meet him, introduce yourself, let him know what you're thinking about, what your concerns are. Certainly, those are all stuff. There's a lot of things that we need a new town manager to be working on. Last night, things were being thrown at him already. He was starting a list. I'm sure there's going to be a lot to it, but you can look to meet him, and we'll try and make sure that he's out in the community and as many people get to meet him as quickly as possible. But welcome, Sheldon. Glad to have you on board. Those are the major updates as far as the agenda from last night's meeting. So we had really only one old business item, which was the third reading of the ordinance updating the chapter around animals in town. I've mentioned this one before. There are some legal issues around our police and the county and the state and who's involved in animal control. This helps to make sure we establish the right jurisdiction. It also puts in place some of the requirements and the fines around animals. We get a surprising number of animal calls in town because there's animals running loose, or there's animals that aren't tagged and things like that. So this helps to try and clean up and establish the jurisdiction and some of the enforcement pieces that the town needs in order to make sure that animals and animal control are able to be addressed in our community. So this is the third reading. It's the final reading. That means that this has now been passed and it is now technically part of the town code. That was the old business. We had a bunch of new business items this meeting. The first one, there was what's called a conditional use application for to have a daycare center. There is a church that opened in the old Salvation Army building. I'm going to brutalize it, but it's the Apostolic Church International. They want to have a small daycare as part of their operations. They want to have 20 students or 20 kids there from, I think infants up to 4-year-olds, pre-K sort of kids. Because they're in this certain area of town, the Central Commercial District, they have to get what's called a conditional use, which is they're required to come to town council and request that their property can be used for this. There's been numerous other daycares in downtown, some of them smaller home daycare things, some of them, we have a few that are, a little bit bigger places that have been around for a while. So it's nothing that's new. The only major concern that came up is that there are neighbors around to one side of that property who have a pool and they have fences adjoining it, and they're concerned about kids tossing things over the fence into their pool area. I guess that happened a little bit this summer when there was a summer camp going on there. The condition that the town council placed on approving this is that their playground area for the kids has to be behind the building and thus away from other people's property rather than up against a fence that's shared. So that was approved last night with that condition. That gives them the ability to move forward with the better utilization of their space and hopefully addresses the concerns of that homeowner that has their property right next to it. The next one that was on the agenda, this is a small one, but we've had a few of these as of recently. This was taking a piece of property that is downtown. It's a little 0.34 acre property on Main Street and making sure that it is properly zoned. I've mentioned our comp plan lots of times. The comp plan includes changing the zoning on a lot of different things in our community. This is one of these properties that just needed its zoning updated, and whenever a property comes to do some work, this is a property that's actually been under construction. They've been doing some things for a little while on it, rehabbing a house. They are required to bring it up to the proper zoning. So it's actually the town requests them to rezone the property so that it is properly rezoned. We had another sort of thing like this, which is out on what's called the Corridor Commercial, which is basically Route 13. The Corridor Commercial area has been mixed use for a very long time. Some of that are larger commercial uses, Retail uses, right? We can think of these, the restaurants, the car dealerships, stuff like that. There are homes, though, and there are some pieces of property that, as they're situated, are far too small to do anything other than put a residential use for. So unfortunately, when we did the last update on the code, residential uses were not added to that. It's basically sort of a bit of an oversight on the town's use. We have a few of these properties that folks would like to potentially use for residential uses, and we needed to make sure that we went back and added that in. There's not the greatest or most ideal place to live on Route 13, but if you have a piece of property that you want to utilize, and because of the requirements for setbacks and parking and all of that, the only available use for it is residential, we really can't stand in the way of a property owner wanting to fully utilize their property. So we made that update to the code last night. The fourth one of the new business items, and this is the one that I think is a little bit, it's a very new thing, not just new for the town of Smyrna, but relatively new as far as zoning uses, which are what are called accessory dwelling units. Some people refer to these as like granny pods. That's one of the ideas. This came to the town because we've gotten a few requests to allow these sort of accessory dwelling units. So imagine this is like you want to turn your attached garage or your basement, or if you happen to have a very, very large attic or something, if you wanted to turn it into another living space that is considered its own dwelling unit that you could, in theory, rent out or have available for a family member to live in. There are concerns that come up about this because you do not want people just, putting little sheds on their property and calling it a house and allowing people to live in a shed or something like that. So we considered this. We looked at some of the options. AARP is actually a big supporter of this because they want more options for people who are older to be able to age in place or age with their family but still have the ability to be independent. I think that's a very big thing. So we looked at what they had laid out, what they've recommended in different ways, and then tried to craft a code that we thought met the requests and gave that option for homeowners, but did so in a way that reflected some of the concerns that we know have come up around this. So a couple of things. To be an accessory dwelling unit like this, it has to be truly a separate dwelling unit. It has to have its own entrance and exit to the outside. It has to have its own water and sewer meters. It cannot be any smaller than 300 square feet, right? So this is, you can't take your little she shed in the backyard and call it a house, or your man cave and call it a house. One of the requirements is that the owner of the property has to live in either the primary residence or in the accessory dwelling unit. This is so we cannot have absentee landlords adding something like this just onto another piece of property as another way to make money. You need to live in your property, either in the ADU or in the existing unit, in order for this to be something that's allowable. So we hope some of those requirements allow people to create these spaces and do so in a way that is responsible and reflective of the sort of concerns that the community has. We created that last night. We'll have to see as those come in what the first few applications look like, whether there's any issues in anything like this. There's unknowns. There's very, very few communities that allow this, but there is a push to do more and more of it as we have an aging population that does not want to go off and have to live in an assisted living facility or retirement homes where they would like to age in place or like to be able to age with their families. So it's a neat thing. I was very supportive of it. I'm happy that we got this done. The other things on the menu, so we had a presentation from DMEC about the Efficiency Smart program. I hope folks have seen or heard about this. I know I've talked about it before. It's stuff that's come out in our monthly utility bills. Efficiency Smart is basically an energy saving or energy conservation program that's funded through DMEC. There's no cost to the town to participate in this. They do things like provide low-cost LED light bulbs. They provide energy audits. We had one here at my distillery. You can get them for your home. They're ways to help you identify places you can save money. There are rebates associated with it if you're replacing older, less efficient equipment with newer, high efficient equipment. A variety of things like that. In the end, the presentation that we received from them, over the last 3 years, we've met the target that they had, which was a reduction of, I think they wanted 900 kilowatt hours, and I think we hit 904. So we saved some kilowatt hours, or I may be having that wrong. It may be a lot more than that. But the idea is that it's trying to help us be more efficient, which decreases the load on the electrical system and ultimately decreases the overall costs of providing electrical service to the community. So DMEC provides it. We decided to renew our participation in that program, so you'll continue to see things about Efficiency Smart. And if you're interested in that, you can find information on the website. You can find information through DMEC, and you can find information. I guess those are the main places you can find information about it. Oh, on your utility bill. It's on there too. The other agenda items, let's see. We talked about replacing the roof for Town Hall. There is during large storms and wind, there was one going on last night while we were there at council. There are some areas in the old section of the town hall building where there is some water concerns and some leaks. The process needs to go back out to an actual bid. I think there was a request done to a couple of a couple of roofers to see what the cost would be. But in the end, we need to send it out for a bid. It might actually be a much larger job than we anticipated. And so that process, we sort of have to start it again. But the idea is to try and push and get it done as quick as we can, because we obviously don't want water coming in, especially in the wintertime. So. And then the last item on the agenda was the awarding of the North Duck Creek Water Tower bid. So to the north side of town, right up by Parkview RV, there is a piece of property that the town owns where it has been designated and all the engineering has been done to construct a water tower. That water tower will provide the ability for the town to give water service to new development north of that area. So there are some of the portions of the town, actually a few places we recently annexed into town at our last meeting, that are up just north of the 13-1 cross, as well as to the what's called often the Watson Farm, which is the area directly to the west of that very, very large area that is owned by Capano Real Estate. They at some point we'll want to develop that, but part of developing it is making sure that the infrastructure is in place to provide the water and sewer that they need to construct the planned village community zoning that we've established for that. So this is a big project. We've done the engineering. We've now done the bid. It is a $5 million project, so it is not small by any means. It is likely to have submissions for the major site plan approvals and things that are needed in the next month or two. That will likely take 4 to 6 months. So we're talking about potentially next spring, or even as things go, some of this will depend on materials and things like that. It could bleed further into next year on when this actually will begin construction. But eventually you will start to see being constructed a new water tower to the north part of town. So those are the major things from our agenda. Again, as far as the updates went, remember it's bulk cleanup, goes till the end of this week, so till the 21st. If you got stuff, get it out to the street as quick as you can. Make sure that it gets picked up, as long as it's not hazardous materials. We've got hydrant flushing going on for the next couple of days, if you happen to see that. Trick or treat and the haunted police station are on the 31st. 5 to 8 p.m. is normal trick-or-treating time. Hopefully my kids are done long before 8 p.m. And Chief James said they've got the big candy bars over at the police station, so get over there for those. And then leaf collection is still ongoing throughout the rest of the year. So those are the big things. If you have any questions, comments, anything like that, please reach out. Let me know. Always happy to try and get you more information. Hope that you're having a wonderful Tuesday so far, and see you soon.